Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
We went to Afghanistan almost 20 years ago with clear goals. Get those who attacked us on September 11th, 2001, and make sure al-Qaeda could not use Afghanistan as a base from which to attack us again. We did that. We never gave up the hunt for Osama bin Laden, and we got him. That was a decade ago. Our mission in Afghanistan was never supposed to have been nation building. Our only vital national interest in Afghanistan remains today what it has always been, preventing a terrorist attack on America's homeland.
Awful yesterday. In a word, awful. Now, I'm going to preface that by saying this. Nation building's a waste of time. We all know that. But there is one time that it works. And we'll get to that in a second. The second thing is, it was everybody else's fault but his. Everybody else's fault but his. He says the buck stops with me, but let me blame everybody else. The buck stops with me, but let me talk about what I was saddled with the last guy, even though I extended this like 90 days. The buck stops with me, but the Afghans are a hot mess. The buck stops with me, but it's the last three presidents' fault. Biden yesterday talking to the nation. All right, let's first unpack some of this stuff. Nation building doesn't work. We know that. It's a waste of time. There is a time that it does work. Kind of, as best that it's going to work. And I'll tell you when that time is. When the people of that nation get sick and tired of the people in charge of that nation to the point where they push that person out or that regime out. And then they come to us and the West and say, how do we do this? How's this work? You know when that happens? Rarely, if ever. Why? Because usually the people that push the other people out don't want a nation build and have some sort of democracy. They want all the power for themselves. He was right yesterday about one thing. The Afghans have to do it for themselves. $84 billion. $84 billion. Let's just round up, call it $100 billion, because as we all know in government, you know, $16 billion missing here, $16 billion missing there. Who knows? It's just figures. Close to $100 billion of not only training, equipping, but paying salaries to a bunch of people who had no chance, no desire, and no want to take the fight to the Taliban. He was right about that. It's like one of those things, right? People hit rock bottom in life. They're alcoholics. You can't want it for them. They got to figure it out for themselves. That's where they are. You can't want it for them. They didn't want it enough to say no. They didn't want it enough to say nah. We are great at getting in things, crappy at getting out of them. We are great at getting into situations and bad at getting out of them. And part of the reason is we don't really have a plan. We have a plan to get in, but there's no real like, well, what's the end date? It's open-ended. But then he went around and talked about all kinds of stuff. Like I said, he threw everybody somewhat under the bus at any given time.
When I came into office, I inherited a deal that President Trump negotiated with the Taliban. Under his agreement, U.S. forces would be out of Afghanistan by May 1, 2021. U.S. forces had already drawn down during the Trump administration from roughly 15,500 American forces to 2,500 troops in country. The choice I had to make was either to follow through on that agreement or be prepared to go back to fighting the Taliban in the middle of the spring fighting season.
Yeah. And by the way, Mullah Abdul Ghani Baradar, co-founder of the Taliban, who spent basically the last decade under arrest in Pakistan. It's the public face of the movement. You had people that were jailed that on Trump's watch in some sort of half-assed negotiation. What are you going to get? I mean, let's be 100% honest. There's never a great way to do any of these things. It looks like you're on a retreat. It looks like you're pulling out. The way it looked like yesterday is that we were running with their tails between our legs. It was discombobulated and an absolute joke. It caused chaos and insanity. And it felt like we pulled the carpet out from underneath everybody because you never can tell with us. Are we leaving? Are we coming? Are we going? Are we staying? Is it what do you want? You want me here? Do I go here? Stay? Just stay. Maybe not. That's the way it felt. And then boom, we're gone. Don't blame the last guy. It was on your watch. At the end of the day, this is on your watch. You could say the buck stops with me, but then you throw everybody under the buck stops with me. It's all my fault. I'll take full responsibility for this. But it was a hot mess. And people along the way warned you. Hey, these guys are not only picking up steam, they're rolling in here. Don't worry about it. Hey, these guys are picking up steam, and they're just like a hot samurai sword through butter, crushing everything in their path. They're raping and pillaging. No, they're not. Yes, they are. Looking for 12-year-old girls, by the way. Right around 12, apparently. That's what they're looking for. They're executing. They're doing what the Taliban does. They're putting a nice face to it, but go behind them. And if you don't think that's true, why are people falling off of airplanes while trying to pull the Tom Cruise from Mission Impossible 28 or whatever it was, where he rides on the outside of it and holding on? Because their fears are what? They know what's coming. They know what's coming. He was right, though, and I continue to go back and talk about the fact that the Afghans failed their own people.
The developments of the past week reinforced that ending U.S. military involvement in Afghanistan now was the right decision. American troops cannot and should not be fighting in a war and dying in a war that Afghan forces are not willing to fight for themselves. We gave them every chance to determine their own future. What we could not provide them was the will to fight for that future.
And that is 100% correct. You cannot fight for them any longer. The repercussions from this will be felt for quite a long time, not just abroad, but also here. Part of that is, well, we're heading into midterms. And I know that sounds weird, but people are already ramping up for that. The battle is beginning. Biden is looking at home right now, and he's seeing a debacle at the border. He's seeing inflation that some people say may be here for a little bit longer than some people think. And he's got this debacle going on in Afghanistan, on top of the fact that Delta is continuing to cause hell and havoc here. And some people are screaming, this is Jimmy Carter 2.0.
I will not mislead the American people by claiming that just a little more time in Afghanistan will make all the difference. Nor will I shrink from my share of responsibility for where we are today and how we must move forward from here. I am President of the United States of America, and the buck stops with me.
Well, the buck stops with you, and it was a hot mess. You were warned. Many people had talked about this and told you over and over again, they're coming, they're dangerous, and they are coming for their rule again. They're coming, and they're building steam, and they're picking up steam, and they're rolling it. They're coming, and yet over and over again, you ignored it. And the way that you pulled out is the failure in this. The way that you pulled out. I do not, for 1 second, think it was a bad idea to get out of there. It's the way that it happened that I think we have a lot of questions that need to be answered. And by the way, somebody said to me yesterday, well, you know, it's how many interpreters really helped us? How many interpreters really did some? Let me tell you, 50,000+ interpreters over time. Afghani helpers, contractors, this was not, you could have done better. What would you have done? You could have, if you were serious about getting out now, you should have started making that move well before May. If you're serious about getting out, you could have extended and say, we're going to be out December 31st. We're going to be out December 1st. Start taking out 5,000 to 10,000 people over. I mean, if you think about it, you could take out over that period of time almost 1,000 people a day, unnoticeable. slowly but surely. You didn't. And the world's laughing. Like China tweeted out something to the effect of the pullout in Afghanistan was almost as smooth as the peaceful transfer of power. Laughing. Of course, this is a nation who tried to give themselves the most gold medals when they didn't win the gold medals in the Olympics because it mattered that much to them by taking other gold medals from countries they see as theirs. Can we borrow those? We want to really win this bad. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us, text the program. A lot of stuff to get to. We're going to try to squeeze it all in today. So much. We got nature will mess you up. And sometimes nature messes you up when you go to a place to watch nature and you pay to watch nature and it'll still mess you up. A lot of stuff to get to on the Delta virus, inflation. Where are we going? 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Shows your Twitter. Raycon, the best earbuds around. Absolutely phenomenal. Phenomenal. Love my Raycons. Been doing a lot of editing. Been doing a lot of stuff. Jack finally came home last night. And so I got my Raycons back. I'm like, you little... I just love these things. The noise isolating fit because of the soft gel tips. So not every ear is the same. They give you 6 different soft gel tips to make sure it fits absolutely perfect. You'll barely notice they're there. You're going to get incredible talk time, 6 hours plus the charging capsule that it comes in. You just put them in their little case. They can give you up to 4 charges, so you don't have to worry about being tethered to a wall. You will absolutely love, love, love these. 45-day happiness guarantee. They start under $70. No stems, no wires. 1-year warranty. Get yours now. BuyRaycon.com/Chad. Save you 15%. BuyRaycon.com/Chad. BuyRaycon.com/Chad. Chad Benson Show.
Deep states? No. Deep doo-doo? Yeah. The Chad Benson Show.
The Biden administration is expected to recommend all Americans receive a booster shot of the COVID-19 vaccine 8 months after completing their initial vaccination. 70% of Americans ages 12 and older have received at least 1 dose. This recommendation from the federal government applies right now to Americans who received Pfizer or Moderna vaccines. Officials are still gathering data on the need for boosters for those who received the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. The booster shots could begin as soon as mid to late September, pending FDA authorization.
The booster shot. So wait. You need FDA authorization. Do we know this for sure that we need booster shots, or do we not know? Are we just going by we think this is the smart thing to do? Because is this based on science? It's based on, because based on political science is different than based on science. Because science is, okay, here's your data. Political science is, all right, here's the data. Now let me paint you a picture of why you need to do this. Oh. Yeah, let me paint you this picture. Let me show you why you have to do this. Let me show you why. Let me tell you a story. Let me paint that story. Ugh. Hospitalizations are going up. What about deaths? Go back to, the COVID side of things when it comes to deaths. Remember, at our peak, we were up in the 5,000 area? Somewhere around there at our peak. And 7-day average is 700. So, early July, we were down around 35 deaths a day based on COVID. And you go back to, once again, so many different things. 40% of the deaths attributed to COVID were people who had type 1 or type 2 diabetes. So, like my grandmother, she had diabetes. She had, childhood diabetes. My grandmother was an extremely fit woman, and she was what they called a brittle diabetic. There was nothing they could do for her. She'd go to bed, and her blood sugar would be perfect, and she would have eaten everything perfect, and she'd, 2 in the morning, it would be at 500, or it'd be at, we're not talking about that. Most of the people that are sitting in certain categories, in particular, the type 2 diabetes, it's self-inflicted. No activity, poor diet, a lot of different things like that. We've talked about that 78% of people, give or take, depending on what study that you're reading, people who have either died and or have been hospitalized, weight and inactivity have played a huge part in that. And then age is still a factor. I mean, you go look at the deaths age-wise, almost 500,000 of our 622,000 are people over the age of like 60. That's pretty telling. You won't find that data because that's not data that people want to throw out there. That's not. They want to throw out other stuff because it's easier to paint the picture. Well, did you hear about this child? It's horrible. Nobody wants to hear about a young child dying, no matter what it is, whether it's COVID or the flu or they fell in a pool. Nobody wants that. But one paints a picture of fear, and the reality is we need to look at this and say, how do we handle this the right way? How do we get from point A to point B where we can stop fighting with one another, find out how we find a somewhat agreed upon solution in our moving ourselves forward? But I don't know if we can do that. I don't know if we're mature enough for that. In fact, I'm going to say at this point in time, I do not believe we are mature enough for that. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us. Text the program. Just some craziness yesterday out of that press conference. And it is, again, you're looking at 20 years we were there. I talked to a few people who served over there. And yesterday, because out here in Phoenix, we have the highest per capita amount of veterans in the country. And we had a few that called in or chimed in or texted me, and we were chatting, and they feel not so much betrayed, but frustrated. And you shouldn't be the ones frustrated in the sense that nobody's mad at you. It's the administration and the failure of our politics. Chad Benson Show.
The Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
This consequential speech by the American president didn't run from it. He owned his decision. He owned the fact that, as he put it, the buck stops with him.
I hope he gets to own their deaths, too. I feel like I watched a different speech than the rest of you guys. I was appalled. There was such a profound, bold-faced lie in that speech. The idea that we planned for every contingency. I have been personally trying to tell this administration since it took office. I've been trying to tell our government for years that this was coming. We sent them plan after plan on how to evacuate these people. Nobody listened to us.
Matt Zeller, Army veteran with Brian Williams yesterday. And MSNBC's like, it was an earth-shattering speech. It was just amazing. Even CNN's like, that sucked. He sucks. This was awful. Like, we're going to be honest here. This was not a good speech. Not the finest moment. My old boss when I was in San Antonio, Greg, God bless him, he'd always start his story with, wasn't my finest moment, Chad. Not proud of this moment. That was yesterday. That's what it felt like. Wasn't my finest moment. No, it wasn't. And the moments leading up to it haven't been great either. The silence over a period of time over the weekend didn't seem to be too great. And the fact is that this was not your finest moment at all. And yes, Army veteran Matt Zeller is right. Many people had warned them and tried to tell them, hey, if we're going to get out of this thing, this is how we had to do it.
They didn't plan for the evacuation of our Afghan wartime allies. They're trying to conduct it now at the 11th hour. The thing that they were most concerned about was the optics of a chaotic evacuation. Well, they got exactly what they were most concerned of by failing to do what was right when we could have done it. We had all the people and equipment in place to be able to save these people months ago, and we did nothing. I'm appalled that he thinks we only need to take 2,000 people. There's 86,000 people who are currently left behind in Afghanistan alone. We've identified all of them for the government. I have no idea why he claims that people don't want to leave Afghanistan. I have a list of 14,000 names right now of people who want to get out of Afghanistan.
Wait a minute. I've heard 50,000. Either way, he's right. We should have been doing this month over. You know what I said yesterday? I was trying to explain to somebody. I said, this is the best way to describe it. You buy a house, right? So you've got your house that you live in now, or you buy a new house, or you build a new house. Your dream house. It's not too far away from where, the family lives, the whole 9 yards. And you're like, you know what? We don't have to be out of here for whenever, the next 6 months. We're going to rent it out at the beginning of the year, or we're going to rent it out in 3 months. We don't have to be out of here till then. This weekend, let's just work on it. Well, they're going to take this stuff over. Then the following weekend, maybe we'll take some stuff over. And along the way, each day, take a few pieces here, a few pieces there, so it's not rushed. That's what you should have done, because you had the opportunity. And to say, well, nobody really wanted to leave is insane. Did you see the C-17 with the 650 or 80 people in there? We know you have a choice to fly, and if you could all sit on top of each other. Insane. People are holding on to an airplane, falling from the sky to their death because they thought that was a better way to go than to wait around for the alternative.
And the idea that the Afghan military should be blamed for this, do you know how many casualties the Afghan military took in an average year? More than the United States did in 20. When you're not getting paid on a regular basis, when you're not getting fuel, when no one is supplying you with ammunition, and yet you're still showing up to the fight, how dare us for having to blame these people for not having the audacity to be able to survive a Taliban onslaught? No. What we need to be doing right now, and what I am appalled that the president didn't say, was we need to be talking about how we're going to get every single one of these people out.
Yeah. Well, there are fighters within the Afghan military that are every bit the fighter that you would see anywhere else. Hardened, but the majority of them weren't in it for real. Not just him saying that yesterday. And we did spend $84 billion plus on arming them and paying them. But at the end of the day, if you're not going to put up the fight, then how can we fight for you? That's a fair question. That was. We'll see. We'll see what happens from here. But think about this for a second. You're 18 years old. You're 18. You're a girl. All you've ever known is the United States being there, the Taliban, for all intents and purposes, minus a few attacks here and there, quieted. More freedoms than your parents have ever known, especially your mother. And the opportunity to do things like go to school, to go outdoors by yourself, to get your hair did. All of those things seem to be overnight gone. That's got to be terrifying. Because you've heard stories. You understand where you live. You know what it's all about. You know what the region in it itself is all about in a lot of places. You get it. Walking down the street and seeing somebody walking around with an AK-47 is something that's going to be a little new to you, but your parents have recognized that happens all the time, long before the Americans showed up here. You've only ever known these kind of opportunities, and now those things, no matter what they say, and by the way, listen to this. This is Ned Price from the State Department. He worked for the CIA at one time, but he was the spokesperson for the State Department, who looked like yesterday a deer in the headlights.
The UN Security Council issued a joint press statement earlier today calling for a new government that is united, inclusive, and representative, including with the full and meaningful participation of women. The Council spoke with one voice to underscore that Afghanistan must abide by its international obligations, including to international humanitarian law, and ensure the safety and security of all Afghans and international citizens.
Yeah, they're totally going to take that right in there. We're going to take those and we're going to put those right over here with no. We're not. We're not doing any of those things. Because we're the Taliban and we don't have to. It's our country now. We want to be recognized as the true leaders of the country. And that includes the laws of which that they're going to implement on the people, which will be draconian and harsh and, judging by today's world, insane. Insane. But think about those young girls over there who were going to school, who were learning, who had hopes and dreams of being something, hopes and dreams of growing into something other than a piece of property.
In Afghanistan, girls are used to dreaming big.
I'm a doctor. I am
Dentist. Another doctor. For them, going to school is normal.
You have many students.
So is coping with a constant threat from men who don't want them to learn. They say you might die, but I try to keep the girls motivated to study, the principal tells me. Under the Taliban in the 1990s, women and girls were banned from work and education, shrouded, kept out of public life.
Yeah. Well, why is that? What are you afraid of? Just curious. Do you think the Taliban's like, hey, we got to get everybody's pronouns? He, she, they, them? Infidel. Chad. Think about how far, though, in the last 20 years, that there was steps made. There was a mayor who's a female who was waiting at her office to be killed. That's what she essentially said. She knows that they're coming for her to kill her. Things have changed overnight. Your freedom's gone. Oh, they're not gone, but they're gone. Oh, they're gone. They're gone. Time to cover up now. Time to put on the full outfit. Yep, time to do that. Time to get back indoors.
For 20 years now, they've lived out in the open, many free to make their own choices. They've seen huge gains in education, equal rights, politics, simple things like shopping alone, all now at risk as the country could plunge back into the darkness of Taliban rule. Politician and activist Fawzia Kufi grew up under the Taliban, but it's her fear for the next generation of girls.
Women in Afghanistan are the most at danger by those who were upset with women becoming powerful in the last 20 years.
Yeah, not just the Taliban. Think about the men who didn't like what was going on, but respected the fact that the U.S. was there and that the Army was holding some sort of power and the police were there and that they didn't do the things they'd done. It was still draconian in a lot of ways, right? Like if you saw an ankle, you're like, oh, my God, I don't know what to do with myself. I saw an ankle. I mean, they make the Amish look like, what's wrong with you guys? That's crazy. And it was all put into perspective. And Clarissa Ward, female journalist, you guys probably see her on CNN. First of all, she's all over the place.
Some carry American weapons. They tell us they're here to maintain law and order. Everything is under control. Everything will be fine. Nobody should worry.
What's your message to America right now?
America already spent enough time in Afghanistan. People come up to them to pose for photographs.
They're just chanting death to America, but they seem friendly at the same time. It's utterly bizarre.
Yeah, I'm sure they're super friendly. Much more savvy than before. That's one thing. They're much more savvy. There's a certain sense of we better show the world that we kind of care. We're going to use some technology. We're going to paint different pictures than before, but it doesn't mean that's going to change. And you know how you know this? Listen to this.
My presence soon creates tension.
It's because of you.
They've just told me to stand to the side because I'm a woman.
The Taliban have yet to implement their draconian version of Islamic law, but many are already preparing for it.
You can see this beauty salon and many others have actually painted over images on their storefronts of uncovered women.
Ooh. Yeah, uncovered women. So she gets to ask one of the Taliban, about, hey, you know what? So she's wearing the full burqa minus the face, where you can only see her eyes. She's wearing the full thing. And it's all black, super full. When you normally saw her over the last several months, she would wear, her hair would be covered, but she wouldn't be in any of these kind of full outfits. She knew.
How will you protect women? Because many women are afraid they will not be allowed to go to school. They will not be allowed to work.
The women can continue their lives, and we will not say anything for them. They can, but with Islamic hijab.
So like I'm wearing?
Not like you, but covering their faces as well.
Cover the face?
Yeah.
Why do they have to cover their face?
Because it is in our Islam.
Is it in Islam, though, that you have to wear a niqab?
Of course, it is in Islam.
Is it? Is it? Is it really? Is it? Is it really? Think about if that's all you've ever known. And now you wake up and over the next coming several days, you see a change where the beauty place is gone, your school's locked up, you're not getting any kind of freedom. You're told you can't go outside without your brother and your uncle and that's the fear. And you know it's coming. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Shows your Twitter. Rough Greens, except for pet food better. Got home last night. What did I do? Saw my dog Doodle. He greeted me at the door with 2 jumps, a hop, skip, and a circle. And I love that. Got him some food right away. Put his Rough Greens on top. Away we went. Vitamins, minerals, vegetables, omega-3, 6, 9. It's got all this incredible stuff. It is a supplement, kind of like a little seasoning salt. Goes right on top. Boom. They love it. Eat it up. Put it on top of the dog's food. You watch what happens. I give it to all of my dogs. That includes my 2 puppies. And I worry, as they bounce, as they run, as they play, I want to make sure that their joint pain is minimal. Their hips are good. Their digestive tract is awesome. That's what Rough Greens does. Try it before you buy it. It's simple and easy. ruffgreens.com/Chad. You go there. You'll see a picture of Doodle and I, but you're going to get a bag for free. It's not going to cost you a penny, except for you got to cover the shipping. That's it. Simple and easy. ruffgreens.com/Chad or call 833-MY-DOG-77. Rough Greens makes any pet food better. Chad Benson Show.
If you're part of the politically exhausted majority, don't fear. Your time to be validated and rejuvenated is here. Wake up. It's the Chad Benson Show.
The song Blinding Lights didn't get The Weeknd any Grammy nominations, but it's now the longest-running song in Billboard Hot 100 Singles Chart history, where it's hung out for 88 weeks, over a year and a half. The previous champ, Imagine Dragons' Radioactive. Blinding Lights had already set records for time spent on the Hot 100's top 5, top 10, top 20, and top 40, and The Weeknd closed his Super Bowl halftime show with it earlier this year. The song, one of 3 number-1 hits from The Weeknd's 2020 album, After Hours.
Isn't that weird? You got no Grammys. That thing's been there forever. A lot of stuff's like that, right? There's a lot of stuff that went to number 1 in the day and or did certain things, and you know nothing about it. And there's other songs that never got there, and yet they're played and in rotation. You got no Grammys for that. Oh, the Grammys are so white. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Shows your Twitter. I'm not gonna lie, getting pumped. Football, not far away, and I'm not just a NFL guy. I love all football. College football is awesome, and the top 25 early release came out yesterday, and not a shocker.
Nick Saban's 7 national championships, that's including 1 at LSU. Only 1 time has he won from the number 1 position. That was in 2017. All the other times he has come up short.
Yep. Number 1 is Nick Saban and Bama. Roll Tide. Neat to see some teams in there. You think, who are these? But I just love it. I get excited to see some of these teams that come out of nowhere. North Carolina, UNC, normally a basketball school. When it got Mac Brown, and he's changed everything there. And it's just fun to watch and a lot of you guys listen to me in the South, you guys know I love college football. I love the NFL. My weekends will consist of hitting golf balls between the good games and then watching everything I can.
It's good to see them in the top 10, but the reason I'm excited about UNC, not only because they have a great coach in Mac Brown, but they have a great quarterback in Sam Howell. Yes, we all talk about Spencer Rattler, the Heisman favorite, but Sam Howell is another Heisman candidate.
It's going to be awesome. Guys you never heard of that this time next year are going to be in their first preseason training camp, like Trevor Lawrence is right now with the Jaguars. The Jaguars! So we got football this week. And then I think we are, I believe, if I'm correct, it is next Saturday. We're going to have the kickoff to the NCAA season. And last year it sucked. And it's also going to be exciting to see, what players have a chance to go potentially next year, but decide not to because they don't have to. They don't have to make a financial decision because they're doing okay because they've got their name and likeness and they're making enough money that for them to stay in college and to further their education and maybe even work on their draft spots, they're able to do that. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show's your Twitter. Tweet at us, text the program. Do love hearing from all of you. Check out the social media fun over there. I think we have a Facebook. I try not to go there, and the reason is because you guys argue over everything. Sometimes I'm just like, Chad Benson Show.
This is the Chad Benson Show. Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
The Biden administration is expected to recommend all Americans receive a booster shot of the COVID-19 vaccine 8 months after completing their initial vaccination. 70% of Americans ages 12 and older have received at least one dose. This recommendation from the federal government applies right now to Americans who received Pfizer or Moderna vaccines. Officials are still gathering data on the need for boosters for those who received the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. The booster shots could begin as soon as mid to late September, pending FDA authorization.
Just curious as to why. Why now? I mean, we've not heard anything. I mean, yes, of course, Moderna and Pfizer are like, you guys should all get more shots. But they're like, I'm curious. Like, what's the dealio? Like, is this, why? Why? I think it's a fair question to ask at this moment in time. Why? Does the science say that? Because every time I see a doctor on television, even Fauci's like, not quite there yet. People who've got compromised immune systems should absolutely be taking it. But, everybody else, we're not there. Because right now, this takes away from all the other chaos and craziness. You've always got to watch the other hand. Whoa, what's going on over here? Not Afghanistan, not the border. No, not inflation and rising prices. It's the Delta variant and another shot. And that's a potential. I'm not saying we don't. I'm just asking a very fair question in this because we even got through this damn thing. You're talking about a third shot. And I understand people with compromised immune system. Got a text message from my son's mom yesterday. And for those of you who don't know, my son lives in San Diego. If you're new to the show, he's out here with me now. He is 11. His aunt, who is like his super best in the world, and I understand more than anything, my mom worked so hard, and my aunt raised me in so many different ways, and her and I are extremely close. So I understand their closeness. She had double lung transplant about 4 years ago. I think it was 4 years ago in June. And they told her yesterday, you have no antibodies. The shot doesn't work on you. Neither shots work on you. We've tried. You just can't because of all of the stuff that they're pumping into you, the anti-rejection medicine and everything like that. It's not working for. And my son was upset last night. And I said, look, Auntie's tough, and they'll figure stuff out. But, this is something could be deadly. And he knows now, too, what that means is double, triple careful, like no hugs. And, that's the kind of stuff. It's frustrating. And it's pissing us all off. And we should be in a better place right now with this thing. And we're not, because we're so busy fighting each other over who gets to be the rightest. And I'm not talking about right or left. I'm just talking about I'm right in this case. And not whether or not you're really right. You just want your point to be proven as such. And it's frustrating. And we're not getting any closer to sorting this thing out. And as we continue to move forward, I just continue to see what this nightmare is going to be, because we're not dealing with it in scientific ways. We're not looking at data in the right way. And we're out there. And even last night, my son's sitting there, and I just told him, dude, enough. You don't watch the news. The news is full of crap. Okay? I'm not going to lie to you. The news is full of crap. They're out there telling you all the scary, bad things that can happen to you, but they're not talking about it in ways that are, you know what, Jack, you go out and play hockey every day in the street, and sometimes you're not wearing a helmet. You could fall and hit your head and die. I said, I'm always yelling at you because you got your motor scooter. Well, you got your little dirt bike. And I said, you take off sometimes. You forget to put your helmet on. You could definitely fall and die. But there's no politics in that, Jack. And so you got to take a deep breath and step back for a second before you freak out. But it was tough because he was really upset. And he sees this thing and he hears all these things all day and people talking about it. And I'm like, don't believe everything you see, because so much of it is meant not to do anything other than to scare. And it's frustrating. And then when I broke it down to him, what the reality of a lot of this stuff was, he's like, oh, okay. But I said, you won't get that. He's like, why did they do that, Dad? I said, because it got you to pay attention, even though you're only, 11 going on 12. But imagine what it does to your mom and to Steph and to everybody else. It does all these things. And emotion is what gets people to act. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us, text the program. Yesterday, if you guys haven't seen, we decided half-assedly to exit Kabul and Afghanistan, and it is an absolute nightmare. To say it was a blank show would be kind to the blank show. It was so awful. Now, the president himself comes out and he gives his speech, and he comes, and he blames everybody. It's everybody else's fault. But at the end of the day,
I will not mislead the American people by claiming that just a little more time in Afghanistan will make all the difference. Nor will I shrink from my share of responsibility for where we are today and how we must move forward from here. I am President of the United States of America, and the buck stops with me.
Fantastic. And I think that's a great thing that you're taking that. The deal is you threw everybody else under the bus. And in doing so, you didn't look like the buck stopped with you. You look like I'll be the one to take the hit, but really it's everybody else's fault. But I'll martyr myself. You have failed at this. And it's not whether or not we should have been out there. I got no problems with that. I think 70% of Americans think, okay, we've had enough. We've been in there too long. We've spent well over $1 trillion. And that, I think, is being kind to how much we've really spent. It's like, don't tell them how much we really spent. Like, give them enough to make them go, ooh, but not enough to make them go, oh, my God. We spent almost $100 billion training an army that fell apart within 2 seconds. And people are looking at you. Is this your Saigon? Somebody said it was a Saigon on steroids. I don't know about that. We were there for 20 years. What was the mission at this point in time? I mean, we haven't had any attacks, nothing that's escalated out of there or can be traced back to there. But now that we're pulling out, the question is going to be what's left in the region, what's left for the people of Afghanistan who don't want the Taliban to rule. Well, you're SOL. This is what it's going to be. In the coming days and weeks, they were going to continue to push down on their draconian measures. and things will go back to a little bit more. I would say the best way to describe this is, while not as draconian as before, because so much of the country is built up, you're going to see things that will remind you, A, how amazing it is to live in the West, and B, it sucks to be a woman or a minority in a country that is ruled through truly the tip of the spear.
Senior leaders claiming they want to form an inclusive Islamic government. The group is establishing a civilian casualty prevention and complaints commission, tweeting out WhatsApp phone numbers for Afghans to send in complaints. But the previous Taliban rule of Afghanistan was brutal and oppressive. Women had no rights and violence was rampant. And though this new Taliban claim they're not opposed to women attending school, many fear that's not true.
Yeah. Are you going to believe them? Well, they're a little bit different this time. You know, somebody's worried about there's going to be, here comes the likes of Al-Qaeda. They didn't really like Al-Qaeda. They let Al-Qaeda set up shop in there, right? Because they let a lot of people at that day and time set up shop there for several different reasons. Partly because so many of them fought alongside. It's part of the Mujahideen who fought the Soviets. So there were just people who were just like, we came here for vacation and to kill a bunch of Soviets, and we decided to stay. And out of that bore some of the evil that was. And they didn't like the fact that Al-Qaeda went and did what they did. Well, they didn't care whether or not they hurt any Americans. The reality is they looked at a bigger picture is, you guys are all going to flee to different places. Now these people are going to be breathing down our necks for God knows how long. And we were there for 2 decades.
It's a disaster for our counterterrorism. America is less safe. Al-Qaeda 3.0 will come roaring back. Al-Qaeda and the Taliban are absolutely married at the hip. But this time when we go back in, the Taliban are going to be better armed with taxpayer-funded equipment. We have no bases in the region, and we have no local allies because they've all been hunted down. I want to see resignations.
Yeah, you're not going to see that. You're not. That's Rep. Mike Waltz. He's supposed to say stuff like that. I don't think they'll break the ties. I don't think they'll not allow some of them in, because a lot of it's one and the same, right? There's they cross the border through Pakistan. They deal. Pakistan, by the way, in certain areas are absolutely worried because they see what potentially is coming. And the fear is you're dealing with a country not only has nuclear weapons, but also a country that has a large population of people that have this kind of sense of military Sharia law, and the worrisome that would come with it spreading throughout Pakistan scares Pakistan as much as it wants to play footsie at times with some of these groups. That's a scary thing. So do I think that Afghanistan is going to be another one of those club meds? No, I think you're going to have times when you're going to ask questions, and don't be surprised if we don't drone on more than a few occasions. But the masterminding coming out of there, I just don't think you're going to see again, because they understand what's coming. And they want to do what they want to do, which is essentially rule with an iron fist inside of a closed border. And that's it. They want to be respected, I think, in positions of power like other countries of Islamic rule. But I don't think you're going to find the same kind of crap that went there before, because we ignored it and we're paying attention to it now. We'll see. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You could tweet at us, text the program. Love hearing from all of you. My Pillow gives you towels. Right now you could use it. It is pouring out here in Arizona. We've all gone outside and took pictures of it because we're not quite sure where this weird stuff's coming from. The towels. Proprietary technology, coupled with the fact that the best cotton grown right here in the United States. You put those two together, you have a non-lotiony, super absorbent towel. You get 6 in the 6-piece towel set. So you can design, but normally what you get is 2 big towels, 2 hand towels, and a 2-pack washcloth. $40, $39.99, normally $110. 60-day money back guarantee, tons of colors to choose from, machine washable. Get yours at a deep discount right now by going to MyPillow.com. Use the promo code Benson. Check out the deep discounts across all of the MyPillow products. MyPillow.com, promo code Benson. MyPillow.com, promo code Benson. Chad Benson Show.
Don't let the Washington Beltway strangle you. This is where the exhausted majority comes to refuel, realign, and reevaluate. This is Chad Benson.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, ignition, liftoff.
Now it's time to find out what's trending. What's trending? Yeah, what does that mean? I mean something, right? Like it's trending on the old internet. What's trending? Let us take a peek, find out what's trending. Start over in the magical world of Twitter, where everybody fights and argues because that's all we know how to do. New Zealand to enter a snap lockdown after recording its first COVID case in 6 months. Snap lockdown. Snap. Not quite sure what that means. But from 11:59 tonight, Tuesday the 17th, all of New Zealand will move to an alert level 4. This measure will remain in place for 3 days. So, apparently, you can't go anywhere. The only place you can do is go obtain medical care, get tested, go for a walk or a run, and essential goods like foods. Outside of that, nothing. Well then, have fun with that one, eh? Sounds like fun there. Naomi Osaka, tennis star, pledged to donate her earnings from the latest tournament in relief to Haiti. There's a 7.2 magnitude earthquake. On top of that, she faced the press and got up and walked out, regathered herself, come back. She's struggled with depression and some other things and the pressure of being a professional athlete. People keep asking the question, you like playing? Do you like the stardom? You like none of it? Because it seems kind of weird. Top of that, this is some interesting stuff. We keep going back to the Taliban and the insanity. Afghan's first female mayor says she's waiting for the Taliban to come and kill her and people like her. Although they have claimed, don't worry, we got this. Everything's going to be cool. Women's rights, yeah, it's there. You got nothing to worry about. Woo! Nothing. Yeah, you got this. Head on over to the magical world of Google. Bob Dylan, accused of drugging and sexually abusing a 12-year-old. A long, long time ago. We're talking 1965, so 56 years ago. That's like, I'm like, really? Carly Lloyd is retiring from the U.S. women's national team, and there's some issues there because people apparently weren't thrilled by her stance in the anthem side of things, where she was like, I'm standing. Lizzo's upset because people call her names about, her being a person of size. She says people are fat phobic. Fat phobic. Fat? I'm like, what? Fat phobic? I still don't get that. When people say you're homophobic, you're fat phobic, you're this phobic, you're that phobic. I've never really, I'm not. No, it's like, I don't get it, because I'll talk about something where, like yesterday I said something, and what somebody took it as, and remember, what somebody takes something as is far more important in this day and age than a lot of other things. But what somebody takes things as, then they'll say you're Islamophobic or you're homophobic, and you're like, you're not. No, I'm not. But that's what you think. It's like, so you're scared of? No, I'm not scared. I'm not any of those things. You can ask questions. I think it's a fair thing to do in this day and age, but you can't. But the fat phobic thing, I've never got that, because people say, hey, you know what? Maybe being 300 pounds isn't healthy unless you're 8 feet tall. And like, oh, it's because you hate fat people. It's like, that's it? That's what you got out of that? Okay. Eat away. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us. Text the program. Chad Benson Show.
Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
Because many women are afraid they will not be allowed to go to school, they will not be allowed to work.
The women can continue their lives, and we will not say anything for them. They can, but with Islamic hijab.
So like I'm wearing?
Not like you, but covering their faces as well. So
Cover the
hijab.
face?
Yeah.
Why do they have to cover their face?
Because it is in our Islam.
Is it in Islam, though, that you have to wear a niqab?
Of course, it is in Islam.
Yeah. We're fighting over masks in school. Think about this for a second, right? And in what has been an absolute unmitigated disaster in the way that we exited and are still trying to exit Afghanistan, these women are starting to realize back in the full hijab, full burqa, full whatever you want to call it, don't want to offend anybody. I said yesterday about, these poor people are going to be thrown right back in the beekeeper outfit. Everybody's like, oh my God, it was just so horrible what you said. I said, this has nothing to do with that. It had all to do with the enforcement of their draconian rules, and it was a shot at them. Stop trying to make something out of nothing. But you heard her. She's like, wow, is it really in there? Can you point that out? Is there any way you can point that out? Somewhere? Just, looking. It's funny, the Quran instructs Muslim men and women to dress modestly. Some Islamic legal systems define this type of modest clothing as covering everything except the face and the hands and the wrist. Chapter 24, verse 30 and 31 in the Quran says to the believing men that they should lower their gaze and guard their modesty. That will make for greater purity for them. And Allah is well acquainted with all they do. Like everything, you take something and you twist it, you move it, you twist it, and you could just try to figure out what you want to do. And they're fighting for their rights. There's no marches over there, ladies. There's no putting on the little hats that you guys did to get, I'm going to get at Trump because he tweets at me. None of that, right? None of the, I'll show them. I'm going to go out there with my handmaiden's tail outfit and I'll show you guys. I'll see that happening. She's a CNN reporter and they said, you, get over there. Why? Because you're a woman. That's why. But people take religion and they twist it. They take a belief in something and they twist it. They take something and they spin it around. We've got that happening here. We got the Delta virus going on. We've got places now trying to figure out, can we mandate certain things? Can we do certain things? How do we work this? Well, all of these kind of things. You've got churches saying, don't worry about that. You don't want to get it? Don't worry, I got you back.
If you feel morally compromised, then you have the ability to present a religious exemption, and I'm creating a platform for you to do that.
Through a church service shared live on Facebook, Pastor Greg Farrington of Destiny Church in Rockland spoke out about the religious exemptions to the COVID-19 vaccine he's offering to anyone who requests one from him. The pastor adding in a social media post, the church is pro-freedom, not anti-vaccine, saying he's been approached by hundreds of people who feel morally compromised by mandatory vaccination requirements. The church declining to comment to CBS 13 on Sunday.
Just tell your wife, honey, everything was great, and I totally was in love with you. Then I got the shot, and morally I became compromised, and so we fell into bed together. Tell your husband that. Morally I was compromised, and I fell in love with the pastor, and that things happened. Chad. What people do is they take religion, and they bend it to whatever they think it is. They interpret it in such a way, and they run with it. That's what politics does, right? And that's sad. We're sitting here, and we're fighting over, should kids wear a face mask? Should they not wear a face mask? Is it going to destroy their world if they don't? Is it going to spread? Well, you can't deny the fact that it's spreading like wildfire if you're looking at some of the numbers. Then you look at other numbers and go, well, there's the same amount of people dying as there was back in February. And so the hospitalizations in parts of the country are up. But by and large, across the board, they're not really massively up. And we're fighting because we're taking things, we're interpreting data, we're doing stuff, and then we're twisting it for our own benefit. What can we do? How can I use this? What can I do to make this? How do I turn this? And that's it. We're fighting over face. We're fighting over covering our nose and our mouth. And there are women who are finding out today that the place where they used to get their hair done is no longer in business and will never be in business again, as long as the Taliban are there. We're fighting over all kinds of things. Shouldn't our goal to be, let's get through this and get to the other side of it, in the sense where we're not worried about it flaring up again and having bizarre measures of like, okay, guys, everybody can't go outside but in twos, and you must stay 8 feet apart. Okay, do we got that? Twos, 8 feet apart, and when that person takes a bite of their food, you cover your nose. When they take a bite, you cover your nose. Scientifically, it's not real, but if we can get you to do this, that'll be fantastic. Now you've got churches going, I'm going to print something out. I'm going to go to LegalZoom, rework some of this, and give you a religious exemption.
The Family Church in Roseville is now also providing religious exemptions. Pastor Matthew Oliver shared what his church's vaccine exemption note looks like and says people have a right to their religious freedom.
They want the right to be able to choose what they're going to put into their body.
So do employers have to abide by these religious exemptions? We asked labor attorney Mark Spring, who says not immediately.
That you can simply say I'm morally compromised or I don't want to take the vaccine, and they're going to hand you some form. That would not qualify, in my view, if challenged or tested by an employer or a government agency. I would be questioning whether or not this is based on a sincerely held religious belief.
Yeah. Or I think that's a fair thing to ask a question about that. And whatever your religion is, if it says don't get vaccines, don't get vaccines. Knock yourself out. That's fine. If it's because it's more of a political statement and you don't want to be told what you're thinking is being told what to do, understandable. I'm about freedoms. As long as, you know what, the way I can only control what I control. Wear my mask when they ask me to wear a mask because it's not my ability. You come into my building, you don't have to wear a mask. I don't have a building. I have a small little office where I do voice work when I'm at home. The rest of the time, because of the radio, I'm here. And I've got an office here, and they're kind enough to essentially swap out my services and allow me to use their facilities. And they've asked me, hey, could you do this? Zero problems with that. I got vaccinated. No problems with that. I like the fact that my church stays away from this kind of stuff. But so much of this is, and what you're seeing across the board, is interpretation and control. And everybody's trying to gain control of somebody's thought pattern and process. And it's sad. It's so sad. Nobody will go out and do the legwork to go, is this stuff safe? I mean, you know, we've given out what? I don't know, 190 million shots. I don't even know how many at this point shots we've given out. Doing about 1 million a day again. But when you go and you look and you're like, well, that's pretty good. Man, we're getting people the shot, right? Yeah, that's pretty good. Have any of them exploded? Yeah. Have some died? Yeah. Is the breakthrough bad? Not really. I think there was 190,000 breakthrough cases. Oh, my God. Out of what? Like, I think it's 196 million shots. So that's really not. It's like less than 0.1 of 1%. It's just everybody's grappling for something. And we're fighting. And sometimes we think we need to put stuff in perspective. Our kids get to go to school, whether they're little girl, little boy. Our kids get to go to school, whether they were a little girl and now are a little boy. Our kids get to go to school and have opportunities to get educated without the fear of not just the government, but radicals breaking in and telling the little girls to not only cover up, but to go somewhere else, to sit down and to shut up unless spoken to. We're blessed. We need to get through this, but I think every once in a while we need a little perspective here on how blessed we are. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us, text the program. Love hearing from every single one of you. Guys, a little Cuomo talk. We're going to talk a little Cuomo. Fredo spoke. Fredo spoke. So you got Brother Cuomo, Big Brother Cuomo, Ed Cuomo, and you got Fredo. Fredo was staying his Faro's way. Totally understandable, by the way. Would have had him do the same thing. I know people got mad. He should be cut. No, he shouldn't. You can't do that. There's no objection there. It's your brother. What are you going to say? He's a scumbag. No, they had a tight relationship. That's never happening. But he spoke. We'll touch on that, as well as Gator attack, because as we all know, guys and gals, nature will mess you up. We'll talk about that too. Rough greens, part of nature, brings your food that you give your dog to life, because dog food is shelf stable. That means put it on a shelf. It could be there 3 weeks, could be there 3 months. It's meant to survive that. So chances are the things that would be living, the nutrients and stuff, probably not doing so well. So what you do is you get Canine VitaSmart, which is this great supplement you sprinkle on top of your dog's food. It brings the dog's food to life. It's got vegetables, vitamins, minerals, probiotics, omega-3, 6, 9. It's got digestive enzymes, all this amazing stuff. And it helps your dog in so many ways, from their coat to their gums and teeth to their digestive tract to their joints. And it has helped my dog Doodle. It's made his life 1,000 times better. It'll do that for your dog. I just know it. Try it before you buy it. RUFFgreens.com/Chad. You go there. You pay for the shipping. They're going to send you a bag for free. RUFFgreens.com/Chad. Or call 833-MY-DOG-77. Rough Greens makes any pet food better. Chad Benson Show.
Running with scissors sounds great compared to this.
Say what?
Before we wrap up tonight, there's one more thing I do want to say. My brother, as you know, resigned as governor of New York. And
by the way, say it on a day when everybody's looking at Biden going, that guy's a buffoon. Brilliant strategy.
We'll be stepping down next week. There are a lot of people feeling a lot of hurt and a lot of pain. And my hope is that ultimately everyone involved can get to a better place. But you should also know I never covered my brother's troubles because I obviously have a conflict. I also said back then that a day would come when he would have to be held to account, and I can't do that. I said point blank, I can't be objective when it comes to my family. So I never reported on the scandal.
I had zero problems. I think everybody wanted him to. And I kept saying, how could you even ask that? It's your brother. Unless you, my sister and I'm talking about my adopted sisters and my niece and my nephews that have been adopted. But I'm talking about their mother. We have no relationship. Once in a while, she reaches out to me on Facebook. I check in to see if she is alive. I mean, it sounds weird, but she had issues with legal sides of things, with drugs, with all kinds of issues. Still my sister. Right? I love her. I don't approve of any of the things that has happened in her life, but and I can be fair and objective. And at the same time, though, it's still my family. Unless you have a disdain for your family, but you would still never ask somebody to do that, because it's always like, when they go and you see these people who are like covering, well, my brother's a politician, and then they don't like him, so they'll say horrible things about him. Sorry, you're too close to it. You may not like him, and how much of that do I know has nothing to do with the fact that you don't like his politics, and all to do with the fact that he stole your girlfriend back in junior high, right? Or that mom liked him more and gave him the car and didn't give you the car. So, no. This, I had zero problems with.
And my advice to my brother was simple and consistent. Own what you did. Tell people what you'll do to be better. Be contrite.
And finally, accept that it doesn't matter what you intended. What matters is how your actions and words were perceived. I did urge my brother to resign when the time came.
Yeah. And, yeah, it's not how it's meant. It's how it's taken. And it sucks that, that take him out of the equation. And in a lot of ways, it sucks that we live in a world now where sometimes those things have changed. But there was a lot of fire there. So much fire you couldn't even see the smoke anymore is the way that people are looking at it. You have to prove it, obviously, and because I think he thinks he'll fight again, which is a possibility. But no problems. And the fact that he came out and addressed it last night was perfect in the way that they did it. Let's talk about all the big stuff. And the throwaway at the end is, oh, yeah, by the way.
I never misled anyone about the information I was delivering or not delivering on this program. I never attacked nor encouraged anyone to attack any woman who came forward. I never made calls to the press about my brother's situation. I never influenced or attempted to control CNN's coverage of my family. And as you know, back in May, when I was told to no longer communicate with my brother's aides in any group meetings, I acknowledged it was a mistake. I apologized to my colleagues, and I stopped.
Stop talking to the aides, but the reality is we were talking to him as I would expect you would, because that's your brother. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. I will need an audience participation. Phil, there we go with Phil. Phil, nature, what will it do to you?
Nature will mess you up.
Mess you up, even if that means nature's in a place where you go to observe nature because it's behind glass.
During a presentation at a reptile center near Salt Lake City, an alligator yanked its handler by her arm and dragged her into the water enclosure, the gator latching its jaw on her hand.
Hey, we got trouble in here!
Immediately, Donnie Wiseman knew he had to help.
And when I see her face coming up, I just knew we had to do something.
First trying to lift the woman out of the water and then jumping into the enclosure. For nearly a minute, the gator thrashes them around. Then suddenly she's able to remove her arm from its jaw. A bystander pulling the handler out of the enclosure.
Yeah, nature will mess you up. People saw what was happening.
And when I see her face coming up.
When I see her face.
And when I see her face.
When you see her face.
And when I see her face coming up, I just knew we had to do something.
Knew it right there. Absolutely knew it. How do you do it, though? What do you do?
I was just thinking to myself, once she was free, that I need to be out safely. I'm aware of what this thing can do. I just seen it firsthand.
You went in there. I think sounds like Donnie's hunted gators before. Seen you on that show. Yeah. Gators, they'll take a bite. Went into a mini death roll, which normally doesn't happen the way that people think. People think they do that all the time. Usually what they do, and I'll say this and same thing with crocodiles, you're dead. So they like to bite you, clamp down on you. They have zero pressure bringing their jaws up. All the pressure's coming down. You can hold many times their jaws closed just with your fingers. They take you and they drown you. Sometimes they'll put you under a log, let you get plump. Then they do the spin because it's an easy way for them to break off bits and pieces of you. Little something for you to think about tonight when you go to bed. Chad Benson Show.
This is the Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
We went to Afghanistan almost 20 years ago with clear goals. Get those who attacked us on September 11th, 2001, and make sure al-Qaeda could not use Afghanistan as a base from which to attack us again. We did that. We never gave up the hunt for Osama bin Laden, and we got him. That was a decade ago. Our mission in Afghanistan was never supposed to have been nation building. Our only vital national interest in Afghanistan remains today what it has always been, preventing a terrorist attack on America's homeland.
Yeah. By the way, we got bin Laden in Pakistan. So there's that. 20 years. 20 years. $1 trillion+ dollars. 2,400 plus men and women who lost their life, gave the ultimate sacrifice. Many others who gave a sacrifice that they're paying for every single day. They've lost a limb. They have, suffered absolutely horrific injuries that they feel every single day. What was it all about? Well, he was right. We went there to do something. And we did it. But then we're like, okay, now what? And I think there was a portion of us that goes, and if you've ever seen the movie Charlie Wilson's War, Charlie Wilson's War is a really good and entertaining movie, even if you're not a fan of politics. The maneuvering behind the scenes of essentially arming a ragtag group of fighters, the Mujahideen, these guys, these real, ragtag is, the Mujahideen were a mixed bag of freedom fighters from all over the Middle East, parts of Africa, that came there to fight alongside the Afghan people to try to get rid of the likes of the Soviets and anybody else who would dare wander in there. And the Mujahideen got the likes of bin Laden to join forces. And he went in there and, not only was he able to raise money for them, he proved himself to be more than an adequate leader at times. And that's something that he remembered, how much they liked him there. And then he went on about his merry way along with a lot of other groups, and through them fighting, helping to essentially expel the evil that was the Soviet Union. They're like, we had a great time. We'll be sure to come again. And people are like, yeah, come on again. And as these groups of people, like the base, Al-Qaeda, led by several who had gone and fought there, were running, getting kicked out of place after place after place, they remembered they had friends in Afghanistan and they could go there. And the Afghanis were somewhat welcoming, thinking, we owe these guys, a little debt of gratitude here. They came here and they fought for us. All that being said, they weren't thrilled by what Al-Qaeda did because they knew it was going to bring heat to them. They want to be left alone to their own, to their own powers to do whatever the hell they want to do. We went there and we did what we were supposed to do. And I think there was a thought process, and you can see it at the movie, if you've ever read the book too, that the what do we do now scenario when it comes to getting rid of the likes of the Soviets. And now we're just going to leave these people to their own because they're kind of crying for some help in some ways. And many people thought we had a chance back then. Instead of building them smooth, schools and roads and these kind of things, we just said, all right, good luck to you and keep all the weapons. What was our thing? It was to get Al-Qaeda out of there, and it was to basically put the world on warning that no matter where you are, we will come find you. And we tried to make up for it in some ways by going, all right, let's give them infrastructure. Let's give them schools. Let's give them a future that we see in the West as much as we possibly can. Remembering, even at its most liberal in certain areas in Afghanistan, it's far more conservative than anything you're going to see over here. They weren't ready for it. I wasn't mad at the way that the fact that Biden pulled out of any of the stuff. Trump wanted to do it. That's why a lot of people liked him. 70% of America wanted us out. We don't need to be in endless wars, and we don't need to be nation building at all. But he did say something yesterday that was absolutely true. Some Afghani fighters, some in the military who were hardened fighters, not the ones they recruited down the road, who they were basically go just look at the jumping jack. Not that you need to be able to do a jumping jack, but showing some form of fitness and coordination does help if you're going to be in some sort of firefight situation. on my Twitter, you're just like, oh my God. But those hardened fighters were few and far between after a while, after 20 years. And it's easy to be a hardened fighter when you have behind you the might of the military. And one of the things he said yesterday, it did stick with me. As much as this thing was a disaster, this is laying at his feet, this is his issue, and the way that we pulled out was an absolutely unmitigated disaster. This is on you. When it comes to where they go from here, would it have mattered if we left last month, next year, if this is true?
The developments of the past week reinforced that ending U.S. military involvement in Afghanistan now was the right decision. American troops cannot and should not be fighting in a war and dying in a war that Afghan forces are not willing to fight for themselves. We gave them every chance to determine their own future. We could not provide them was the will to fight for that future.
And that he's absolutely 100% correct on. Nation building doesn't work. But there are opportunities to somewhat nation build after something happens. And that something is the getting rid of the group, the leaders, the president, the rulers of a nation that's authoritarian, and then looking around and asking the globe, in particular the West, how do we do this? Then you can help. Going in and trying to fix it that direction, where we go in and we try to not so much impose our will, but try to impose our beliefs, our structures, it just was never going to happen. So after a while, yeah, the question is, what are we still doing here? Well, it's because we don't want terror. I get that. But do we really think that they can't do something somewhere else? Al-Qaeda in the peninsula is growing in power. We saw what happened with ISIS. We're more worried now about, rogue elements than we are in a attack that's going to come singularly, is more dangerous than an attack that they're going to try to plan. Because at this point in time, I just don't think that's, while it's not impossible, it's definitely lessened, especially after we learned lessons from 9/11. But the failure here was on him in the way that it happened. Biden ignored the calls by many people along the way saying, if you're going to do this, you've got a ton of people to get out, and you've got to do it over a period of time. And it felt like yesterday was like, all right, let's do this. They're coming. When last week, and the week before, and 2 weeks before, and a month before, it's probably not going to happen. It's probably not going to happen. Oh, it's happening. Great that you owned your decision. But at the end of the day, you failed in the way that you removed the people. When you had opportunities, instead of trying to do it over a period of time, it felt like it was rushed, it was discombobulated, and it became a hot mess.
And the idea that the Afghan military should be blamed for this, do you know how many casualties the Afghan military took in an average year? More than the United States did in 20. When you're not getting paid on a regular basis, when you're not getting fuel, when no one is supplying you with ammunition, and yet you're still showing up to the fight, how dare us for having to blame these people for not having the audacity to be able to survive a Taliban onslaught? No. What we need to be doing right now, and what I am appalled that the president didn't say, was we need to be talking about how we're going to get every single one of these people out.
Yes, that's Matt Zeller, Army veteran, CIA analyst, not happy. Was on Brian Williams last night, which is a bizarre thing because apparently they watched two separate speeches. And we'll touch on that in a second. CNN was brutally hard on him. Fox was what Fox does. Everybody else is whatever. But New York Times, the LA Times, the predominantly uber left-leaning established media was fairly hard on him comparatively to what you would normally see. But when you listen to him there, and he talks about, well, the Afghan military, there is two separate sides of the military. You do have hardened fighters who have been around a while. Most of them have since gone and were some of the earliest to leave. The ones after, they were the ones. We spent $100 billion almost, and it was a failure. But we can't fight for them. We can't.
This consequential speech by the American president didn't run from it. He owned his decision. He owned the fact that, as he put it, the buck stops with him.
I hope he gets to own their deaths, too. I feel like I watched a different speech than the rest of you guys. I was appalled. There was such a profound, bold-faced lie in that speech. The idea that we planned for every contingency. I have been personally trying to tell this administration since it took office. I've been trying to tell our government for years that this was coming. We sent them plan after plan on how to evacuate these people. Nobody listened to us.
And that's a serious, serious, serious issue that people are asking questions. You knew in April what the Taliban was doing. You knew in February what they were doing. In March, you started to see them move. Here comes May. They're making bigger moves. They're making strides. And your thought is, well, we'll hold on to Kandahar and we'll hold on to Kabul, and they can own the outskirts and the hinterland, and we'll own this. And it was a nightmare. And then the rushed way that we did it, it felt very Saigonish. Some people even called it Saigon on steroids. It was a mess. And yes, the mess is on you. Zero problem with the way that, as far as everybody planning to get ourselves out of there, it was the execution and then the laissez-faire attitude of it's everybody else's fault, but I'll take the blame for it. I think that pissed a lot of people off, and people should be angry. We look a hot mess. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us. We're going to talk about it later because the world was watching. The world was absolutely watching. And the likes of China and Russia and others, what are they thinking today? Raycon, best earbuds around. You will love these Raycons. You can listen to the best of the best music and rock out, not have to worry about blowing your ears out. You can listen to your call on your Zoom call or whatever it is you're doing and not have to worry about noise dribbling in from somewhere else. Incredible noise isolating fit. The best fit around, the best sound quality. It comes with a capsule, a little charging capsule that's like a little case. That can give you up to 4 charges without having to plug it back in and recharge it up. You will love, love, love these. There's no stems, there's no wires. And the price point, well, for premium earbuds like this, normally you'd spend $200, $300, $400. How about this? They start under $70. You will love these. Get your Raycons, 45-day happiness guarantee, 1 year warranty. BuyRaycon.com/Chad saves you 15%. You will not be disappointed. BuyRaycon.com/Chad. BuyRaycon.com/Chad. Chad Benson Show.
No fake outrage here, just the real thing. The Chad Benson Show.
Rain and high-powered winds destroying families' makeshift tents. Survivors drenched, clutching their belongings, attempting to save what they have left. The country already reeling from a 7.2 magnitude earthquake that struck Saturday. The search for survivors reaching a fevered pitch, hundreds still missing.
Yeah, still a nightmare there, and Grace just heading down and barreling down, and so this is going to be a double nightmare. And you had a 7.2 magnitude earthquake that smashes into Haiti, and it is not a place that's unfamiliar. Obviously, what's about 10 years ago, you had a 7.0 earthquake that killed anywhere between 200,000 and 300,000, and I don't know how many are still missing at this point in time. I don't think they do, and that's why I said it's going to be, you're never going to know the real number because it's almost virtually impossible in a nation like that. It doesn't keep great records. But it just shows you how, easy it is for one disaster like that to change the entire course of a place like Haiti. With zero infrastructure, a absolutely disaster of a political system that included their president being assassinated several weeks ago by armed mercenaries, some of which were potentially Americans. They were Americans. They were working for drug cartels. I mean, just insane. Those people need all the help that they can get. And the chances of them, getting through this with only a few thousand dead, I think is small, because I think when the rains come and hit harder, with the lack of infrastructure, clean water, things like that, you're going to see the rise of certain things when it comes to diseases and stuff, it is going to be a nightmare for those people. So, I was looking, and, I haven't been through a lot of earthquakes. You get frustrated at times because the guy has to come out and check your house 9,000 times. You're like, all I'm doing is putting in, but then you step back and you go, okay, I get it. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show's your Twitter. Tweet at us. We're going to talk about the ladies. That's right. Women in Afghanistan. They are, for all intents and purposes, the one group that everybody is looking at when it comes to how this plays itself out in front of the world. What will the Taliban do? Most people had no idea where Afghanistan was, who the hell the Taliban were, or Al-Qaeda was before 9/11, and they certainly didn't have any idea what was going on there and how women were treated. But now the world is going, okay, well, what happens from here? Is it going to be another enslavement of women? We're going to talk about it. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Plus Delta, the rise of Delta. Should you be getting a booster shot soon? Yeah. The administration's coming out saying, well, maybe you might need. We shall discuss that as well. Chad Benson Show.
The Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
The Biden administration is expected to recommend all Americans receive a booster shot of the COVID-19 vaccine 8 months after completing their initial vaccination. 70% of Americans ages 12 and older have received at least one dose. This recommendation from the federal government applies right now to Americans who received Pfizer or Moderna vaccines. Officials are still gathering data on the need for boosters for those who received the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. The booster shots could begin as soon as mid to late September, pending FDA authorization.
Johnson & Johnson, what do you do? We don't know. We don't know. Nobody will tell us what to do. We're fretting. This is our fret face. So, boosters now recommended 8 months after. Based on what? I think it's fair to ask, right? Like, what are we doing? Well, they're looking at what took place in Israel. So data from Israel on effectiveness of COVID-19 vaccine over time is causing the U.S. to go, maybe we should look at some other thing. Dr. Francis Collins, NIH director, right? So he's the director of the National Institute of Health, is looking at all this data, and a lot of what they're saying is boosters help. That's what Israel started to do. They started implementing boosters because they saw a tick up in cases. So I don't know. I mean, it's one of those things where it's bizarre. Is it for everybody? Israel started giving it to everybody 65 or older. They said after a certain period of time that Pfizer in particular was 55% effective against severe disease and hospitalization, 55% less effective than it was when they were in the midst of their antibodies being built up. I don't know. I do not know. So what they're recommending originally was weakened immune system, right? HIV patients, cancer patients, people who have organ transplants. My son's aunt, who he's extremely close with, the vaccine didn't work for her. They said because of all the medicine for her organs and for her double lung transplant that they give her to not reject, it didn't work for her. So she doesn't have any antibodies, and they don't know if they're going to offer her a second round or not. They might not just tell her to be safe. They still think that she would survive, but it's all about doing the right thing. But are we doing this based on science? I don't know. They said Pfizer's COVID vaccine against severe illness among people 65 or older at the beginning of this showed that the chances of them getting a repeat, if you will, infection was very slim. And it was strong. So maybe older population, when you go into the breakdown of the deaths in this country in particular, you notice two things. First of all, 40% of people who have died were type 1 or type 2 diabetics. The second thing, a majority of them were 65 plus by a vast margin. Wasn't even close. Do they need special boosters and everybody else? We'll find out, but that's what they're kind of pretending, potentially recommending. I wouldn't even know. I can't even remember when I got mine. I think it was March. So 8 months, November, December-ish, I guess. I don't know. It's just frustrating as hell. It is. It seems everything changes on a daily basis with so much. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us, text the program. The Taliban, first press conference. How exciting, right? How exciting for them. Their first press conference, first chance to get out in front of the world, right?
قال الله تبارك وتعالى أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
Yeah, totally.
إنا فتحنا لك فتحا مبينا ليغفر لك الله ما تقدم من ذنبك وما تأخر ويتم نعمته عليك ويهديك صراطا مستقيما وينصرك الله نصرا عزيزا.
Absolutely.
وأيضا قال الله تبارك وتعالى.
Yeah, what he said is, we're going to be totally kinder, gentler, with a kinder, gentler Taliban. Ladies, you got nothing to worry about. Not a thing. We're going to treat everybody, we're going to be inclusive. That's what we're all about, like super inclusive.
The UN Security Council issued a joint press statement earlier today calling for a new government that is united, inclusive, and representative, including with the full and meaningful participation of women. The council spoke with one voice to underscore that Afghanistan must abide by its international obligations, including to international humanitarian law, and ensure the safety and security of all Afghans and international citizens.
Absolutely. Totally. Ned Price there. Worked for the CIA for a long time. Now he's a talking head out there in Washington, D.C. for the State Department. They want an inclusive, want to know everybody's pronouns. Women are going to face the biggest struggle here. They are. So imagine this. Imagine, if you will, you're 18, 19. You're born right around the time, maybe a couple years before, or just after what took place on 9/11. The Americans have been there for pretty much the entire time of your life. And your mother, your grandmother, your father, your grandfathers, they've seen what the Taliban has done and the way that they did their thing. And on the other side of stuff, you've been able to go to school. You've been able to have freedoms that your grandparents, mom, older sisters never were afforded. They're enjoying it now, but they weren't afforded that. And it, by the way, doesn't mean, let's not forget that there's a lot of men that aren't the Taliban that didn't mind what the Taliban didn't mind the harshness of some of the rules that they put in place. But in going there and trying to make it a more inclusive place, a better place, we need to realize that us leaving is going to cause a lot of heartache and headache and fear and potential death for a lot of women over there who are looking at this and saying to themselves, how is this going to change my life? What happens now? If I go to school, am I going to be caned? Am I going to be executed?
In Afghanistan, girls are used to dreaming big. I'm a doctor. Doctor. I am dentist. Dentist. I'm another doctor. For them, going to school is normal. You have many students. So is coping with a constant threat from men who don't want them to learn. They say you might die, but I try to keep the girls motivated to study, the principal tells me. Under the Taliban in the 1990s, women and girls were banned from work and education, shrouded, kept out of public life.
Yeah, out of public life. They've made major gains, but you have one lady who is a politician, who is a mayor in a town in Afghanistan, and she's basically telling the West she's just waiting for the Taliban to show up and kill her and people like her. That's the reality of which they face. And the Taliban could come out and they could play, oh, we're the kinder, better, Taliban, more modern Taliban, a little bit more hip Taliban. But I don't know if everybody buys into that stuff. I mean, in front of the cameras, I'm sure they're going to play a game that's much different than behind the cameras. And I also think there are going to be men over there who didn't like the fact that their daughters were doing things and were allowed to do things because they are adhered to a very strict form of Islamic law, maybe not so much as Sharia law, and they're going to take the opportunity now, they feel, to step out and to say no more of that, no more of getting your hair done in places, no more of, doing the things that you've been doing. That's the strides that they've made are going to be wiped out. I bet you not all. I think they'll keep a few, right? But it's still going to be so draconian compared to what we have, right? Like this draconian kind of thing that we think we have here is like, oh, this is a patriarchy and the society is evil and bad and it's just it's the Handmaid's Tale and Trump was mean and then you step back and you go, now this is what real evil looks like. This is what real evil is about.
For 20 years now, they've lived out in the open, many free to make their own choices. They've seen huge gains in education, equal rights, politics, simple things like shopping alone, all now at risk as the country could plunge back into the darkness of Taliban rule. Politician and activist Fawzia Kufi grew up under the Taliban, but it's her fear for the next generation of girls.
Women in Afghanistan are the most at danger by those who were upset with women becoming powerful in the last 20 years.
Think about shopping alone. Shopping alone. Never was this more evident for the kinder, gentler Taliban than Clarissa Ward. She's a journalist. She works with CNN. And so when you saw her, and you guys have probably seen her a bunch of times, if you've ever watched any kind of news, she's been all over the place. She just doesn't, but she's working with CNN now, but she's been everywhere. And she goes into a lot of these places. And you'd see her and she'd be covered up, right? She'd have a scarf on her head. But by and large, in some regular clothes, and she'll go out and cover stuff. But she's always respectful of the places that she's at, understanding exactly what is going on. Yesterday, she's in pretty much the full burqa. She's in the whole 9 yards, minus the face side of things. And we'll get to that in a second. So she's there with the Taliban as people are celebrating.
Some carry American weapons. They tell us they're here to maintain law and order. Everything is under control. Everything will be fine. Nobody should worry.
What's your message to America right now?
America already spent enough time in Afghanistan. People come up to them to pose for photographs.
They're just chanting death to America, but they seem friendly at the same time. It's utterly bizarre.
I mean, they seem friendly. I mean, they say they want to kill us all, but I mean, like they want to do it with a smile on their face. All right. So that's, by the way, in her interviews later on, it was just bizarre. Well, there's a kinder, gentler. They seem friendly. They feel like they're like, and you're just like, just remember your place is what they want to remind her. And they do.
My presence soon creates tension.
It's because of you. They've just told me to stand to the side because I'm a woman.
The Taliban have yet to implement their draconian version of Islamic law. but many are already preparing for it.
You can see this beauty salon and many others have actually painted over images on their storefronts of uncovered women.
Yeah. Uncovered. We're not talking about like what we see, right? This isn't, go to Instagram and see stuff. We're talking about uncovered women in a situation where you can see their face, or maybe they're only wearing a scarf, but they've got regular clothes on. And that's what I'm talking about. I just opened up Yahoo. So let me tell you what's on the front of Yahoo here. Let's just compare. All right. Let's see. You got Madison LaCroix. I work hard to be in shape. Talking about her new bikini photos. Oh, and this one's my favorite. You got two underneath here. So you got Bella Hadid, who wore a see-through white dress with nothing underneath. And then good morning to Kendall Jenner in a thong bikini only. It is a different world. I don't see the marches. I don't see the hats, the maiden's tail. So Clarissa Ward asked them, hey, so the dress. So what are we doing with this?
How will you protect women? Because many women are afraid they will not be allowed to go to school. They will not be allowed to work.
The female, the woman can continue their lives, and we will not say anything for them. They can. But with Islamic hijab.
So like I'm wearing?
Not like you, but covering their faces as well.
Cover the face?
Yeah.
Why do they have to cover their face?
Because it is in our Islam.
Is it in Islam, though, that you have to wear a niqab?
Of course, it is in Islam.
Is it? Because we've looked in some places, we don't really see it. But if you feel that it's there, and you have the gun, all right then. That's the scary part. If you're a woman over there right now, you're thinking to yourself, how the hell do I get out of here? How the hell do I get out of here? I might love my people, but to be subjected to this insane rules. We talked about it yesterday. There's no watching television. There's no pictures of animals. You couldn't even post a picture with your dog, right? No flying a kite. That's some of the insanity. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Shows your Twitter. MyPillow gives you great deals on incredible things like the MyPillow, the mattress topper, the Giza Dream Sheets, all of that stuff. How about this? 6-piece towel set, normally $110 for you, $39.99. Incredible technology that has been literally woven in with the best cotton grown right here in the United States of America. You're going to get 6 towels. You get 2 big ones, 2 hand towels, 2-pack washcloth, 6-day money-back guarantee, tons of colors to choose from. You will love these. Get this and all these other major deals simply by going to MyPillow.com and using the promo code Benson. It's MyPillow.com, promo code Benson. Save big on the MyPillow, the Giza Dream Sheets, you name it. Save big across the board and get this incredible 6-piece towel set for just $40 right now. MyPillow.com, promo code Benson. MyPillow.com, promo code Benson. Chad Benson Show.
You go, boy.
This isn't about right or left. This is just about right and wrong.
Right you are, Chad. The Chad Benson Show.
Crazy, wacky last few days. You never know what is going to happen. And again, we talk about this with Afghanistan, but if you're Biden right now, you're sitting around and you're saying to yourself, inflation is real. All right. It is real. And some people may say, well, how long is it going to be here? It might not be here that long. Could be a jobs boom. There could be a lot of things. But if you don't get a handle on it early, it could be your death knell, especially for your party in midterms. Immigration is an absolute disaster. Or the lack of immigration policy out of this administration. And you just saw a debacle in Afghanistan that has the rest of the world laughing at us who aren't our allies. China, laughing at us. Russia, and both of them want to play a part of this game because they like getting their feet into places like this. The one thing that China has an issue with is the fact that the Uyghurs are part of the Muslim community, and we know how China feels about that. Russia just likes being a pain in everybody's ass. And the Delta variant right now in certain parts of the country is not going well for this administration. So he's got a lot of work to do. That's for sure. And so far, he is falling flat. You guys have a blessed, wonderful day. We will do it again tomorrow. As always, go eat a taco. Night-night, Jack.
This is the Chad Benson Show.